Great Wednesday. Welcome to the King Connections podcast. I'm your host, King. Today I'm joining the King Connection podcast for a second interview with Arthur, somebody who I feel is who's doing some great things out in the world, has shown a lot of courage and a love of commitment. And welcome back to the show, Randi-Lee. How you doing today, Randi-Lee?
I am pretty good. Thanks for having me back.
Glad to have you back. Well, one of the ways I like to get things started, kind of make sure we are on the right path, is to ask, what's your spiritual energy number? And what I mean by that, it's a number from 0 being life sucks, and just right now, really in the moment, to 10 being life is awesome. Where would you say you kind of fit into that?
Gonna go with like 7.5, 8.
Okay.
Because I just got off work, so I mean, I'm glad to be here. So.
Okay. All right. I go with that. And, one of the reasons I asked that question, I've learned from various meetings I've hosted and doing these podcasts, that if someone answers 2 or 4, for whatever reason, it's a good reason to just don't do the interview.
Yeah.
They're not going to be present. They're not going to be engaged. And it's not going to come across well. So that's why I was asked a question, kind of check in to see what
I remember that.
All right, great. Well, thank you for humoring me with that. Well, again, welcome back to the show. Looking forward to our discussion today. To get things started, I know you got a new book out. You've written several books, but we're going to talk about your newest book. Show again, please. Thoughts of a Wanderer. Excellent.
Warrior.
Thoughts of a Warrior. I'm sorry. Thoughts of a Wanderer was the first book. This is a second book today. Yes, thank you. Thank you for the correction. So now, with that being said, your newest book, it feels like a courageous return to a reclamation of life, meaning and inner power. What inspired you to write this follow-up to Thoughts of a Wanderer? And what does it mean now to call yourself a warrior?
So it's actually a little bit funny how this one came to be. So my mom was in the kitchen. My kitchen and bathroom, they're connected. So I was on the scale. I've been attempting to lose some weight. I wouldn't say a diet. I don't like that word, but just making some healthy choices. And my mom said, she goes, well, if you guys keep eating pizza and snacks all the time, you're never going to lose weight. And I don't think she meant it in a mean way, but it just jammed in me. Because my mom has always been, you know how moms, they can pick every little insecurity that you have, even when they don't mean to. They can. It's our superpower. I'm pretty sure I can do it too, completely unintentionally. But
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. Our biggest fans, but also just. And so when she said that, I was like, because I've been dealing with a lot of body image issues for my whole life, but they got pretty bad in the last little bit. Once I couldn't do kickboxing anymore because it just kind of got out of hand in my brain. And so I sat down, I wrote out this poem because whenever I'm feeling emotional, I write out a poem and I go, you know what? I haven't written a poetry book in a while. And I think I'm in such a better place now than I was when I released Thoughts of a Wanderer that I feel it needs a follow-up.
Okay. And you're absolutely right about your moms being able to poke you. No one knows you better than your mom. That's for sure. And she definitely knows how to turn that valve or hit that point or touch that nerve, however you want to say it, to kind of really let you know, I know you better than anybody else. You can't fool me, and hold that mirror up to you, so to speak. Now, what's interesting is that the poems in this book move through heartbreak, trauma, and a quiet act of depression. Yet they also radiate defiance, hope, and a sense of rebirth. Which poem was the most emotionally raw for you to write, and which one has become a healing mantra for you to return to?
So when I saw that you were going to ask this question, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the hardest question I think I've ever been asked. So I've been sitting here all day long, really, not here specifically, but just trying to figure out the answer to that question. And the second half of that question was super easy. What's become the healing mantra? It's the very last poem in the book. What did I name it? Shatter the Mirror. Very last one. And that one I knew was going to be the answer for this question because I took my favorite poem from Thoughts of a Wanderer, which described how depression feels for me, and I rewrote it for being through the mostly bad parts. I mean, life is up and down. But which one was the most emotional? That was the tricky part of this question. So I couldn't pick just one. I have a couple that I highlighted. So there's one. It's called "It Can't Be," and it's about getting the diagnosis of cancer. These ones, they all brought me back to that place. The other one's called "I Am," and again, it was just about how I was feeling for most of my life, and so pulling it back. Fear Pressure was the other one. Sorry, there was three. And Fear Pressure, because again, all those three, what they have in common was bringing me back to a time where I had to face my old self. And that is such a hard thing to do.
Would you mind reading one of them, please?
I definitely can. All right, so I'm going to read the one called Fear Pressure because I just love the title of that one so much.
Okay.
All right. Why did I do those things? It felt like someone else was pulling my strings. Were the decisions even mine? Why would I cross the line? Was that peer pressure? No, it was fear pressure.
I like it. It gives you something to reflect. It's reflective. That's what I love about it.
Exactly. You got to hold that mirror up to yourself, and it can be pretty scary what's looking back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's always one of my favorite songs by Michael Jackson. I was listening to that, Man in the Mirror.
Oh,
really
yeah.
Just, that's the one that it's always easy to judge someone else. You have all the answers to someone else's problems and what they should do. But you have to look in that mirror and say, well, no, you're the problem. Or what do you need to do? And then put an action behind it that's a challenge.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
And I would say from my own personal experience, it's also the difference between making a change and growing and not growing. Being stagnant and staying where you are is that unwillingness to confront that image of you that needs to change and then not making that change for whatever reason you give yourself. I'll do it later, or not right now, it's not the time, or I have all these other things in my life, or whatever the reason may be. It holds you back until you make that change.
Yeah, and it all comes down to fear.
Absolutely. Now, another thing I noticed about the book, you paired these poems with nature photography, weaving beauty into pain. What does nature teach you about your healing?
Okay, so first, I'm going to show you the picture that goes along with the book I just read, and any Canadian will totally understand why I picked this picture. Okay. So that is a Canadian goose.
Okay.
Widely known as a cobra chicken. They are so scary. When you see them, you will cross the street and walk around them and give them a very wide berth because they are very scary creatures.
Really?
Yes, because when they want to protect them, their wings all go and they hiss at you, and they got like little razor teeth. It's very scary.
Oh, really? Wow.
That's the worst part about being Canadian is the cobra chickens. But nature in and of itself is just such a stress relief. Like and it's so funny because my husband hates camping, and every year I try to get him to go camping because I want to go out into a forest with. I'm not going to say nothing. I have a tent and a cot. I don't sleep quite on the ground, but like no electronics, no worries. Just listen to the wind and the leaves and just like little chipmunks that run by, no cobra chickens. And so I think nature, it's so beautiful and it grows no matter what. So when you walk down the sidewalk and you see the little, what we call weeds, but it's life and it's growing up through the concrete, it finds a way. And I think that's what we need to do is we need to find a way.
Absolutely. Well, just for clarity purposes, are you saying cobra chicken?
Yes.
Like a snake cobra and chicken?
Yes.
That's interesting.
That is the local terminology for Canadian goose, a copra chicken.
We have a lot of geese walking around our area where I live as well, but they're not like that. They don't.
These guys are scary.
We give them more of a wide berth, just how to make sure we don't scare them. They don't come at us. So that's interesting. You call them a cobra chicken. That's really learned something new today. But I agree with you. One of the things I find to be so fascinating, and it never gets old, is watching the sunrise.
Yes.
And just being out there when it's dark, and then you just watch the sun just come up, and it just, the most powerful thing about it, it doesn't try to come up. It doesn't like stutter a little bit. It always comes up. And then you just hear it as you talk about life, the chipmunks, the birds, the insects. You just hear life just start to come alive. And that to me is a truly magical spiritual moment. And I love it. And it's like one of the things that really sets my day when I, get out of bed, or I work to go to bed early enough to get up to see it. So that's kind of like my gift. So I definitely understand and respect that.
I have a lot of, I wouldn't say sunrise pictures because I'm not up that early, but I have a lot of sunset pictures in the book because same thing. They're so beautiful.
And you take these pictures yourself as well, right?
I did, yes.
And do you go out and you look for certain pictures, or just while you're out, you say, I'm going to take that picture there? And
yeah, more that. I'm just out. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. I need this.
Do you have a special camera? Or are you into photography in that sense?
No, I keep telling my husband though it's going to be my next big thing. I want to go get a fancy camera, but no, I just use my cell phone camera. Although I went to the store and I said which cell phone has the best camera on it, and I got that one. So that way it's always with me.
I'm curious which one.
It's the Samsung Ultra Galaxy something.
Yeah, I just got that phone, so that's why I asked that question.
Oh, it's amazing. It takes, and like the zoom on it, like you want to take a picture of the moon, you'll really see, like, it's gorgeous.
Okay, great. I'm gonna start using it for that purpose, even though I hadn't. I just got it 3 days ago, so I definitely intend to use it. I'm
play with it.
Pictures of my sunsets, sunrises as well. Absolutely. Yeah. Now you do your own podcast, much like I'm doing mine with King Connections, and you've hosted over 250 podcasts of the Write or Die Show.
Yes.
Now, what has hosting it taught you, not just about others, but about yourself?
So I would say the biggest message that I've gotten from it through all the different guests, because it's very similar to yours, where I have a guest on and they're sharing about themselves. And it would be give yourself grace. And that is something that I've been very bad at in my life, is giving myself grace. And so I've learned that I need to do that sometimes, and it's been very helpful. Sometimes I'm so overwhelmed that I stop and I go, wait, what is the reason that I am deciding to do these 20 things and being overwhelmed? I don't need to do that. Nobody's making me. There's no gun to my head. Like, I can give myself a break. It's totally okay.
It's interesting. I saw a video recently about that. It's a gentleman who he's a former CIA operative. He does a series of videos, and I just decided to click on one because he talked about, the caption said, how to cure overwhelm, and how the CIA teaches you how to cure being overwhelmed. And he says that it's really simple as far as the process, not necessarily to do, but the process is. And he says that, think of the 7 things you're trying to do right now. And he says, just think about if you were to get rid of 2 of them and just focus on 5, how much more impactful you would be with those 5. Then if you do 5, just think about just doing 3, right? So he says, imagine it from that kind of context to say, how much better would those 3 be if I was to put all my extra time and attention to just those 3, instead of trying to do 7 that I can do, but 3 I can do extremely well. So that really gave me a different way to look at it. Because I have a colleague of mine, or a client of mine, who loves to multitask. I mean, everything. I think we all think we're good at multitasking several things at once. I've learned as I've gotten older that I choose not to multitask as much. Now, again, I still catch myself, but my intent is not to multitask anymore,
Mhm.
because it's like now, that's why I love doing these podcasts and being um, here almost better than a real conversation in person. Because when you do a podcast like this and you have to look into the camera, you have to give a person your attention. If not, they can tell you're not. If I look down at my phone, you can tell that I'm distracted, even for a second. If I look around, so you're forced to really be present when you're actually having a Zoom session or a video dialogue. And for me, that was really a discipline I had to do, to really just be locked in, be present, be interested, most importantly. And I learned a lot from that, as opposed to just kind of going through the process as a checklist. Okay, I got this podcast interview. I'm gonna ask these questions and just taking it for granted, but learning to really be in the moment, be in the experience. And because I learn so much from these podcasts that I do when I host, when I have other
Mhm.
guests on, because they come from a variety of different backgrounds. And I try to come up with the most interesting questions I can ask so that I can learn and we can have a great dialogue. So I agree with you 100%. But we've been taught in society to multitask.
That's what I was gonna say, is that word multitask. I was an employment counselor for a long time. And that was one of the things, people would come in with their resume and would say, great multitasker. I'm like, it's a word that, yes, is tossed around a lot and some people want to see it, but like, actually, and there's been studies that multitasking does not produce good work. Like,
Mhm.
it does not produce your best work. And so I would do my best to try and change the wording, or help them maybe kind of get away from that word of multitasking. But it's a popular word. It's, what's the thing I'm trying to, like, a buzzword.
Yes. Yes. And like you said, people brag about it. But I've never seen someone who I would say they multitask well.
Yeah.
I see things where, again, if you multitasking gives you the capability of giving three tasks 70% of your attention and expertise, just imagine if you were able to give two tasks 100% of your expertise and your attention, how much of those tasks would get done, or
Hmm.
what the outcome would be.
Yeah.
Now, my next question is, you've spoken bravely about mental health, the mental health journey. How do you continue to protect your own energy while holding space for others?
Again, that was another question. I was like, oh, that's a good, like, when you say you try really hard to come up with good questions, you do.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome. They're very thought provoking. So I would say that I protect my mental health a couple of ways, because I mean, through therapy, I've learned, the coping strategies. That's another buzzword there. And then by doing my show, I feel like that is one of my strategies to use, because you're focused, you're in the moment. Being in the moment is so much harder than it sounds, because we're always thinking about what happened before, what groceries we need to buy later, what you're going to do. Like, we're always thinking beyond what's here and now. And when you're
you.
doing a show, you're in the here and now. So my show is definitely one of those times, or when I'm guesting on other people's show is one of those times where I feel like I'm protecting my mental health, because I'm here, I'm now. And even after, when we say goodbye, I'm still in the here and now. My brain hasn't had a chance to click into forward mode yet, which is a good thing.
Hmm.
Um, and then leaving space for others, I think by protecting myself, and I think this would go for anybody, by giving yourself what you need, it is so much easier to have the capacity to give space to others. If you
Hmm.
don't take care of yourself, you don't have that. You're just filled with too much other stuff. And so I think they just go hand in hand. When I can do what I need to do, when I can take a breath, when I can give myself grace, go out in nature, all those things that help me stay in a good mindset with my mental health, it just gives me the ability and capacity to hold space for somebody else.
That's a good point. And you're absolutely right. Most of our thoughts are, unless we train ourselves, is either a thought about the future or a thought about the past. Very few thoughts are in this moment right now, you know, and that's where it teaches you, or you have to learn how to be disciplined. And that's where meditation comes into play
Mm-hmm.
if you do meditation. But that's where we all search for at the end of the day, is that peace of mind. because peace of mind is filtering out the past regrets or the future concerns or worries or stresses, and you're able just to have silence. That's what we all, strive or we all really want at the end of the day. If you ask, especially as you get older, you really just
Yes.
want peace of mind. That could be the best gift someone can give you. So let me get peace of mind today without having to worry about or regret or take on any other issues that I've been dealing with all this time. But just let me just be in this moment and enjoy life. It's a show I saw on TV recently. I've seen it advertised for years. I never had a chance to watch it, but getting my new phone from T-Mobile, it included a Apple TV subscription, so
Okay.
I was able to watch this show. It's called Ted Lasso.
I knew you were gonna say that. So good. So good.
It is, I had heard about that. I had heard all these reviews, but again, it was on Apple TV, and I was like, I'm not going to pay Apple. I'm not going to pay for Apple
Right?
TV just to watch this show. But I would pay for Apple TV just to watch that show. Now that
We
I've
do.
watched the show,
We literally only have Apple for that show. My husband saw it on TikTok clips, and he's like, "I need to see this show." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, sure, sure." So he goes, he watches it, and I would walk into the room every so often and be like, "Huh, it's kind of an interesting show. Okay, okay." And then finally, he had watched the whole thing, and he was rewatching it because he loves it. And I was like, "All right, I'm gonna watch it with you this time." I made it like this big deal about how I'm gonna do it this time. And then I was like really into it. I'm like, "This is such a good show."
yeah. So I heard two different reviews about the show. I thought was spot on from an American perspective. One person said this show talks about or it features two of the things that Americans hate, which is kindness and football. you know. And another person said it's a show that you never thought that you wanted, but now that you watch it, now you know you can't live without it.
Yes. Oh my god. I tell everybody to
The
watch
writing,
that show.
the
It's
writing
so
is so
good.
good. It's unpredictable. You don't know what direction it's going in, and it does always have a positive message,
Yeah.
even though it deals with mental. I'm sorry, it deals with mental health, and that's why I wanted to bring it up. 'Cause, the key lead actor suffers from it.
Yeah. And it's amazing that my husband goes, it's so spot on because you're looking at men's mental health, and that's
Mm,
something that is not talked about enough. And
right.
my husband's always, we always have this debate, him and I, men are supposed to be XYZ, the strong,
Mm.
whatever, you don't say your emotions. And he's like, and this is what happens. Look at what's going on. This panic attack. Like these are the things. And I'm like, I'm with you. I hear you. We need to talk about it more. And this show just does it so well, showing what men think they need to do and what really goes on. And it's so good. Everybody go watch it. Go get Apple just for that show.
Absolutely, I agree. I agree. It's worth the $10 you spend just to binge watch it for that month to get all 3 seasons in.
Yep.
It's definitely worth that. And one of the things that really stood out to me about the show was the fact that the lead character Ted is such a positive guy.
Yes.
Always having something positive to say, always in that kind of cheerful mood, great energy. And it shows you how by bottling up all his insecurities and issues, even though he projects positiveness, he's still not a happy person at the end of the day, and anxiety can kick in at any moment. And so that's
Yes.
why mental health is such an important thing right now, to your point, because men's health, we're taught to not show our feelings at all. If you got feelings, smash those feelings, push them down. But eventually now they come up at times you don't expect.
Exactly. Oh, such a good show.
It is. It is. I still have the third season to finish watching. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh,
I'm kind of taking my time to enjoy. I watched the first
yeah.
2 seasons, but I'm like, let me just take my time on this third season.
Well, because then you're going to be sad when it's over.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, let me slow down and watch probably one episode every 3 days just to kind of make it last longer, so I can hear when I finally finish watching it, the new season will be out maybe 2 or 3 months. Then I won't have long to wait. So that's kind of my strategy.
They make a new season.
Well, I've read online they are.
I know, but it's like there's a bunch of the main characters that aren't coming back because they've already went off to get other jobs.
Oh, really?
And things.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Wow.
So we'll see how it goes. We'll see.
That's disappointing.
We'll see. As long as it has the same writers and like super main characters, I think we should be all right. But we'll see.
Well, since we're still a little sidetracked, I have to ask this question in a moment. Do you have a favorite character on the show?
I really like Coach Beard. Yeah, Coach Beard, definitely.
I would say my favorite character, and I'm forgetting her name right now, but she's the owner of the team.
Oh, Rebecca.
Rebecca, yes, I love
She's
Rebecca.
pretty awesome. Yeah,
She is, and she's just stunning. I mean,
yes,
she commands the room every time I see her, and it's like, wow.
yeah, definitely.
So actually, yeah, Coach Beard he's an interesting character. They picked the perfect actor for him, that's for sure.
Right, exactly. Just everything about the show is so spot on. They pick the right characters. The script is so good. Like everything is just so good. And then the message of the show, I love it.
Now, getting back on your book and really talking about your life now, receiving your autism diagnosis as an adult, how has that shaped your self-compassion, your voice, or your advocacy in a new way?
It was like a big aha moment when I finally had that and I could go, oh, see, now everything makes sense. The way that I was feeling, as a kid, as a teenager, that makes sense. Why I didn't feel like I fit in makes sense. Why I'm the last to understand a joke makes sense. Like it was more about vindication is the word coming to my head, but that's not really the right word. But it was more like just feeling more empowered that I knew there was nothing wrong with me. And it sounds so silly because there was never anything wrong with me before the diagnosis. It didn't change who I was, but the way I thought about myself changed. And I went, okay, before I felt broken, I thought something was legitimately broken inside of me. And now I go, oh, I just think differently. My brain is just wired differently. Difference not bad. Difference not broke.
Right.
And so that was that big aha moment. And I think from having that aha moment gave me the opportunity to voice that to others, to voice that different is not broke. And exactly what I said, right? Different doesn't mean anything bad. And now I'm, living proof. So now I can speak it from a personal perspective, which I always think when I'm looking for that inspirational person, the one that is coming from a personal viewpoint, those are the ones that get to me. Doctors are great, and I love my therapist, and they have their place. But if I'm looking for, like, say, a podcast or something, I want to hear somebody's personal insights.
Now, I'm curious, when you say broken, can you describe what that kind of feels like as best you can?
Yeah, and it's a very tricky thing to describe. So I will do my best. So, for instance, especially in high school, I think this is probably the easiest way to describe it. In high school, you have like all your little cliques, right? And so picture, your typical high school TV show. You've got your jocks and your nerds and your goth kids and whatever. So you have all these cliques and they are all together and your cheerleaders or whatever. And I was like, I don't think I fit in any of these groups. Where do I go? And everybody else is finding their group of people. And I go, where is my group? I don't know where that is. So I must be broken because I can't slide into any of these places. So something is wrong with me. So that's probably the best way to describe it. So hopefully that makes sense.
It does. And I think that's a great way of describing it because it allowed me to kind of see it from that perspective. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Now, when you think of, I use the term fully human quite a bit. And that's where I really believe that I like to connect with people who identify as fully human, right? And what I mean by that is I'm moving away from the culture. My friend used the term, he coined this term, cultural given, the way we were born, what you were given at birth. And that is identifying yourself by your race, by your gender, by your sexual orientation, by your religion, by your political party, all these, what I call forced tribalization, that you say groups. So here's a group, and this is a group that you're in. So these are the people you have things in common with, and so on and so forth. And this is how you're supposed to behave and answer. And this should be your perspective based on this group dynamics. And As I gotten older, I realized I'm much more than just my identity if I identify by my race or my gender, so on and so forth. So I choose to identify as fully human. And then when I identify as fully human, I'm forced to see you as a human being. It's a default reaction. I'm not saying there's a white woman on the other end of my camera, right? That I have to now, and you see me as a black man, and if we see each other in that identity, we're forced to kind of deal with the biases we have about each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if we see ourselves as human beings, then we don't have that. Not to say that, I'm not proud of my race and things of that nature, but that's not my number one identity. I don't lead
Mm-hmm.
with that, right? That's just like, um, that's a flavor of me, so to speak. It doesn't define me in its
Yeah.
totality. So with that being said, and I really want to define fully human for my next question.
Yeah.
So when I say, when you think of fully human leadership, you have to lead differently. And my question would be, I see you as someone that's fully human by your expressions, by your experiences, by your conversation. And I would ask, so as you identify as a fully human leader, forgive me, how do you lead differently now with the wisdom you gained through both triumph and tenderness?
Oh, see, those good questions. First off, love this fully human thing. I am stealing it, and I'm going to keep promoting that is the best way to describe
Well, I didn't create the
it.
term, so you can be by all means use it. I just my
Love,
definition of it, but I didn't create that term.
I love it. And it reminds me of this story that I had to read in school. Now, I'm talking, this is 25 years ago. So I do not ask me what story it was. I don't remember. But the one part of this story that stuck with me was somebody needed to cross the border. And it was a native story, like an indigenous story. Not like a traditional one, but somebody indigenous wrote it. And they had to cross the border. And the border said, okay, what's your citizenship? And the person said, the world. You're like, nope, that you can't cross because what is your citizenship? What country are you from? Well, I'm not from a country, I'm from the world. And it was this story, and it kept going back and forth. And I always identified with that kind of worldly view that, yeah, okay, I was born in Canada, whatever, but I'm human, like you're saying, right? And so, and as my kids are growing and they're going through this, figuring out their own identity, and my one at one point said that she was non-binary. Okay, I'll respect you, whatever pronouns, I don't care. It didn't change anything. She was still who she was, or yeah, she goes by she now. So she was still who she was. My other one identified as a male for a few years, trying to figure out her stuff. She's back to being a female. We've had lots of long talks about that. But the reason I'm sharing all that is because no matter what happened, no matter what they were identifying as in a societal way, because people are asking them, what pronouns are you going to use? Especially at their age, it's very thrown in their face all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't change who they were as a human being. They were still exactly who they were. And that, I had said it before, when I got my autism diagnosis, it didn't change who I was, but it was a aha moment. And so going back to your question, now that I've kind of shared the thought process here, I think from all the things that I've experienced and I've learned, the ups, the downs, the loop-de-loops, I think that I'm able to be a fully human leader because I am now understanding that I'm just me. You're just you. My kid is just my kid. And not putting labels on everything. And I used to tell my kids this when they were really little, my youngest one specifically, because she, even when she was like really little, I'm talking like when they're like in those 4 and 5T kind of t-shirts, we had to buy her shirts in the boys section because the girls section didn't have wide enough arms, like shoulders. And the boys just had the cool superheroes. And that's what she was into at the time. So why would I not buy the cool superheroes? You don't want the pink princess. And so I would tell them, I don't care what the sign says up above. Get what you like. It doesn't matter. You're still you. So being able to vocalize and share just experiences, because especially I talk about mental health, mental illness a ton. It knows no age. It knows no race. It knows no country. It knows none of that stuff. It doesn't care what you decide you identify as.
Exactly.
It goes, okay, you're a human, you have a brain, I'm just gonna mess with it a little bit. So
Exactly.
yeah, so I think being fully human and being able to just talk in that way of we can all experience these moments, that is my leadership style.
Excellent. That's an excellent description. Thank you for sharing. And you're absolutely right. I tell folks, and I've learned this as well, that if you, again, choose to identify by your forced tribalization, your group, someone tells you that you're born into whatever it may be, and now because you don't know anyone else from the other groups, and you have biases, which are normal. I think everybody has a
Mhm.
bias, right? But now if you grow that bias into hate because of your ignorance about that person's culture or whatever it may be, that you're giving power away from your own self mastery. Because now, like, say, for example, and I don't, but just using this example, if I hated gay people, then every time I saw a gay person, I'm upset, right? So I've ruined my day because I see a gay person. So now I have to shift my thinking again to get back into a happy mode. Another gay person walks around. And you think about the idiocy of that activity of allowing something external to you that no one's doing anything to you. The gay person's not doing anything to me at all, but just living. And because I hate them, I'm upset. You think about the irony of that idiocy. That's what
Perfect
makes it.
description.
Yeah. And it's like, so how can you go through your day and enjoy your day if you have all this hatred for people throughout your day, especially if you're somebody who hates a lot of different people? Like
Mm,
you hate blacks, Jews, gays, trans, if you got a list of people that you hate, you're not enjoying life at all. There's no
mhm.
value to life to me if you have that much hatred in your heart. Whereas if
Yeah.
you have love in your heart, you see other people as humans, just another human out there. Then you're able to just receive, as you said, you can receive the blessings of the majesty of nature. And you can enjoy that and the stillness and just look at things and say, I just saw a bee go by. And I heard that, or I learned that the bees' wings beat, I forgot how many times they beat, like 1 million beats per minute.
Oh, so fast.
Yeah, so fast. And just that's a much more better way to exercise my brain and my thoughts than to walk around hating people.
Yeah.
So the engineering, my background is in engineering. So the engineering me, I always put things in what's the value at the end of the day? What value do I
Mhm.
gain from this experience? Right? Because that's how I determine whether or not I want to do something or should I continue doing something. I always put myself through that self-reflection. And I just see no value. Not that I always had value in hating, but the older I've gotten, I can tell folks there is nothing that you gain from hating anybody. And if someone's teaching you to hate someone, then they have their agenda, and more likely they're getting you to do work for them, getting money from you, or getting something from you as a result of teaching you that hate. It's never for your own benefit.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to add that since we were on that space there.
Oh, it was perfect.
Now, is there an episode or moment from your show that changed you, that cracked you open or shifted your perspective in a way that you didn't expect?
So I was really pondering this one when I read it because I was like, I'm sure there's probably something. Um, but I have been doing the show for 4 years, so it is hard to remember everything. But what I really think is that it's accumulation of everybody. Because it takes somebody, and I can't remember this study, but you have to hear something, I don't know, 8 to 10 times or something before it's going to stick in your brain.
Right.
So I don't think there was one moment. I think it was the accumulation because many of the guests, their stories are all different, but a lot of the strategies are the same, but they're said in different ways because they're said from their personal. So, I said at the very beginning, giving yourself grace, that came from the guests on my show. And it wasn't the first person that said it. I was like, yeah, okay, give yourself grace. Now, okay. How do you do that? I don't understand. And then, a few more guests share how they were able to give themselves grace and how they were able to take time or whittle down their list from 7 to 3. Like all of those different stories, the same point of giving yourself the space that you need to take care of yourself, but from different perspectives from people all across the world. And that accumulation of those stories, that's what got to me.
Mm, mm. Interesting. Now, I'm a big proponent behind connections My company I call King Connections, not so much based on my name being King, but by the ideal of a King connection being an individual that you connect with them based on their social capital, their circle of influence, they can change your life significantly. And so I think everything we do is about connecting with individuals. So looking for that King connection is kind of what I help people do. It just happens to be my name is King. And one of the things you do when you connect with people is look for an opportunity to engage and co-create, to do something that you couldn't do on your own. Now, in that space, what does co-creation look like to you? And especially as someone who's built a community through both story and struggle.
So I would say co-creation is, I mean, I think you kind of already said coming together to create something new. So finding people that have common interests and different skill sets. I think that's the key is everyone has different skill sets, and when you can find people that have the same purpose or same values that you do, but different skill sets, you can come together and create something that you never would have been able to do on your own, that you never maybe even would have thought of to do on your own.
Hmm. Absolutely. I agree with 100%. And that's what I kind of look for when I um, make these introduction meetings on Zoom, LinkedIn, is you find someone you're aligned with based on your principles and your purpose in life. And you're like, wow, you can and I've learned, and it's true, you can get to a conversation where you're aligned with someone, and it could be a conversation that's a very simple conversation about Ted Lasso or about nature, right? And next thing you know, you look around and 30 minutes have passed, 50 minutes have passed. Like, wow, where did the time go? Right? Whereas if you're talking to someone you're not aligned with, and it's a conversation that you got to think about everything you're asking, and you look up,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, I've only been talking to this person 5 minutes. you know, so those are the kind of conversations I look to avoid because to me, you can't co-create. At least I haven't been able to co-create with those individuals. I like to look for folks who I'm aligned with, who's growth minded, who brings a certain amount of joy to the conversation, who identifies as fully human. So those are some of the criteria that I look for. And now I want to ask you this question about your background a little bit. And I kind of want to give you a little time to talk about your background as well, because you have a very interesting background to me. I've never met a professional kickboxer before. So I want to ask you this question, then kind of have your opportunity to talk a little bit about your background so our listening audience will get a better understanding of who you are. So with kickboxing no longer a physical outlet for you, have you found new form of strength or discipline?
Yes. So remember at the beginning of our discussion, I said, and then, my brain's been really being mean to me about my body figure and all that. That started because I wasn't able to kickbox anymore. Now, I had struggled with body image forever, but it got really bad when my body decided, guess what? You're going to be in pain 24/7. So it turns out I have arthritis in both my hip joints. And so rotating hips to kick things, not so good. And then there's other arthritis, other places, and fibromyalgia. And it's not a fun time in my body sometimes. And so I wasn't able to do kickboxing. And so I was a competitive kickboxer for quite a few years. I was on Team Canada. I was now I can't remember. In 2015, I was the national champ in my division. 2015, I also then went to Worlds. In 2016, I went to the Pan Americans. I got silver in my division. So I was going all over the world, and I was like, this is awesome. I'm going to be able to travel everywhere just by, doing the sport that I love. And then it turns out, well, no. And I started getting into coaching kickboxing, and I was just before COVID hit, I was chosen as one of the coaches for our Ontario Winter Games, which is for younger kids to try and experience a big competition. We go away for the weekend, and everybody's in their own teams, and it's a really cool experience. I absolutely loved it. And then COVID hit, so obviously we couldn't do anything. But it was during that time that my body started creaking, let's say. Aches and pains everywhere, and lots of doctor's appointments to figure it out, and needles and all that fun things. So I was really struggling mentally with what the heck am I going to do? I can't do what I've been doing for the past decade. And I would still try to do it, and then I would be in pain and couldn't move for 3 days. And it's an absolutely awful feeling. Once I finally, and this was through therapy and through talking to people, a lot of this was from my show. We were talking about that aha moment, talking to people who have experienced similar things where they were doing something they loved, something happened, and they could no longer do it. How did they deal with it? I really took to heart a lot of what they were saying, going, okay, this isn't the end of my life. This is just a new beginning for something else. I don't know what that something's going to be. And so the things that I do now, Pilates is really amazing. It definitely is great for the overall conditioning of the body and moving, and horseback riding. And actually, after we're done, I'll be eating dinner and going to horses, going to the barn and seeing the horses and going for a ride.
Okay, excellent. And the movement of the horse, the bumping of the horse doesn't bother your hips?
Surprisingly not. So there is a couple horses that like the thinner ones that aren't as good, but the fatter ones, the rounder ones, they don't bounce as much or shift as much, so they're kind of perfect.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to take a quick 2-minute break for our sponsor, and then we're going to pick back up on the other side of the show and wrap up our next 3 questions. All right. So I'll see you on the other side.
The playbook for growing a local business online is simple. Capture new leads, conversationally convert those leads into sales, turn those customers into positive reviews, and then reactivate those customers into repeat buyers. And that's exactly what our platform does. In order to consistently generate new leads, you first need to be found. The quickest way to get search engines like Google to put your business at the top of search results is by having a steady flow of positive reviews. With our platform, you can show up in search and stand apart from your local competition by easily collecting new customer reviews through text. But getting found is only the beginning. Most consumers choose the first business that responds to them. So unless you start conversations with potential customers almost instantly, they'll go somewhere else. That's why we make starting conversations with website visitors as easy as clicking a button, connecting you instantly through text message so the conversation doesn't end when they leave your website. And we bring all your leads, no matter where they come from, into a single conversation stream that supports text, email, video messaging, Google Business Chats, and even Facebook and Instagram DMs, so you can respond faster and more efficiently than ever. When it comes to turning all those conversations into customers, we make collecting payments just another convenient part of the combo, so you get paid faster no matter how they prefer to pay. Next, you'll want to turn your new customers into happy reviews, which is a snap with our new review request quick actions. The more conversations and customers you generate, the easier it becomes to drive repeat business. We make reactivating contacts into customers as easy as, yup, you guessed it, the push of a button. With bulk actions, you can send out text and email campaigns to generate new sales whenever you have a new update, promotion, or story to tell. We make modern online marketing simple. Let's start growing your business today.
Okay, we're back. Thank you for being patient through our sponsor. Now, piggybacking on our questions, I see you're a storyteller at heart. But what story are you telling yourself these days about who you are becoming?
So these days, I would say I am telling myself that I am just becoming a really cool person. That sounds to me like I say it out loud. I'm like, oh, that sounds so cheesy, so stupid. But for the longest time, I would tell myself the story that I was useless and awful. So it's not as cheesy as it sounds. I am telling myself now that I have worth, that I have something to share, and that other people some people, maybe not everybody, but are interested in what I have to share.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. It doesn't sound cheesy to me at all. If someone was introducing me to someone and they use their first description, that I say, well, tell me about her. I say, well, she's a good person. She's really a cool person. That's not going to sound cheesy to me. That's going to pique my interest.
Okay, excellent.
So I think that's a good thing. Now, you wear several different hats. Obviously, we all do in our different roles. But as a mother, as an advocate, and as a creator, how do you teach the next generation to lead with love and resilience?
I think the best way to teach is through doing. So I try very hard, not always successfully, but that's what trying's about. I try very hard to lead by example. So if I say that I'm going to try and give myself grace, I'm going to try and actually do that so that my kids can see that, so that they can understand what that actually looks like. A lot of things growing up were do what I say, not what I do. And that is very confusing.
Yeah.
So I've been trying very hard to do what I do.
Mm.
It doesn't always work because, sometimes kids are just pains in your butt. But I think that is the best thing to do, and to walk the walk and talk the talk, and share, like by sharing everything that I've been through, the ups, the downs, and I always like to say the twirly whirlies. That is the best way, I think, to help the next generation learn that they are good people, interesting people, worth something. They are worthwhile. Because the worst part is feeling like you're all alone and feeling like you're not worth anything. And I want other people to see that you totally are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Being authentic is some key, and it's important. People look for folks who are authentic nowadays, considering the political climate that we're dealing with nowadays.
Yes.
If you could co-author a book or co-host a series with anyone in line with your mission, who would it be, and what would the message be about?
That is such a hard question. That, and I'm super bad with names, but honestly, I'm bad with names, so I'm going to give just a general description of who that person might be. I would love to co-create, even if it's not necessarily a book. I've really been wanting to make like a little cartoon or some music. Not that I'm the singer, or some music about mental health. And I would love somebody who is on that same vibe length of creating something different, something unique that I haven't done before. I would love to branch out into different things, and create like some songs, because I love poems and I have all these poems, but I'd love somebody to maybe put some music to them, and somebody who's actually vocally inept. Or not inept. That would be the type of person.
I have a person in mind for you, so
Oh.
I can see if I can connect you to. And interesting enough, you'll have the same publisher as well. So,
Look at that! That is funny.
Yeah, maybe I might be the connecting tie there. So we'll see. Two more questions. Now, in the spirit of King Connections, my company, who is someone you love to connect with now, who represents the next frequency you're reaching for?
Again, super bad with names, but I feel like my previous answer would be my current answer for this one too. I think they go hand in hand. Although somebody that I have been following on TikTok, who I would absolutely love to connect with and have on my show, Citizen Soldier. They sing mental illness and mental health songs and stuff, and I would love to interview the lead singer for
that. Okay, all right. And finally, what message do you want to leave for the version of Randi-Lee who first started this journey, and for those listening who are just beginning theirs?
Ooh, well, if I could go back and tell myself way back when I started this, I would tell myself, you're not broken, and you don't have to be somebody that you're not. You don't have to fit into somebody else's mold of who you are. just to fit in. You are meant to fit out, and that is so okay.
Powerful. Absolutely. Now, I haven't had the privilege yet, and I am going to listen to your podcast. But I want to give you some advice. If you're already doing it, great. If you haven't done it, then I would actually ask you to consider it. And that is this. I would suggest that you maybe begin each podcast and maybe even end each podcast with a poem from one of your books. I think it is set the context for the discussion, and it could be, and you never know who it may reach when they listen to it and may resonate with it. So I
definitely have not.
I think that's something you might want to consider, and then going through the preparation of which poem do I choose for this topic. I think that would be a fun exercise as well. But just something I thought about that I think will really just fit more of your personality into your podcast. But I'm going to listen to it as well. I'm going to listen to your podcast and look forward to it.
I love that idea. I think I'll have to. I'm really bad with remembering, so I'm going to write it down because I really like it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think really the best part about it is not necessarily reading a poem, but just really going through the exercise of which poem do I choose and why.
Yes.
Right.
All right. It's on my to think about, to ponder list.
Now, we've reached the end of our show, and as we wrap up, I want to give you an opportunity to share your contact information, so how folks can find the book and any other links they can connect with you on social media, and how they can connect with you.
Yes. So all of my books, including the one that we were talking about today, Thoughts of a Warrior, they're all on Amazon. So if you go on there and just type in my name, Randi-Lee Boslaw, everything will come up. It's probably the easiest way because I feel like Thoughts of a Warrior is a pretty strong title for more than one thing.
I agree.
And my website is rbwriting.ca. And then I am most active, I would say, on Instagram and TikTok, and just my name, Randi-Lee Boslaw. And of course, my YouTube, Spotify, my YouTube, all the podcast platforms, whatever, Write or Die Show.
There you go. Love it. And I just thought about something too as you were saying your piece there. And I thought a great segue, maybe you may even mention this in your book, from wanderer to warrior,
That was the reason I picked that title, but I don't think I promote it that way enough.
So I kind of like that because it just shows you, as it creates a curiosity to say, I was a wanderer and I'm a warrior. And it just that journey. Like I look at being fully human as a journey. It's not a destination, right? Yes. Because we're going to make mistakes along the way, and that's what makes us human. But the goal is to stay on path and see and have others give grace, and you give grace to others who identify as fully human. It's more of a grace-giving, learning experience, and truly staying on the journey. And this has really been a journey with you. And I know you've been on the journey, but I've enjoyed having you on my podcast for a second time. You radiate great energy. Wish you much success, and look forward to any other future endeavors that you may be involved in.
Thank you. And I'm so glad to be back, and I will be back in the future if you'll have me.
Definitely. I definitely will. Well, you go ahead and enjoy your horse riding and get at peace with that. And again, I want to thank you again for investing the time and energy with joining the show. And to our listening audience, thank you for listening to another episode of King Connections. Take care.